14 days. Couldn't be around nobody. Just me and this damn guitar. And I picked it up and I wrote a song, and all y'all can relate to it. I'm sure you can. It goes like this. Masturbating. Getting tired of masturbating. You ask me, it's getting aggravating. When it's only you, what's a man supposed to do? I'm getting tired of masturbating.
I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. Blues, women, and blues. I'm here, I'm there.
Hey folks, Dr. Brian King here. Look, I'm in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I'm sitting in the VIP room of a fabulous hookah joint called Aladdin's, which we just got done doing a comedy show here. I am joined today by my co-host on this podcast, Miss Minda Rella.
Hi! It's really late at night.
It is.
Just so you know, it's super
It is so
late
at night. And I'm doing everything handheld. For those of you watching the video, you can see a lot of jerky handheld motions.
Yeah, it's very indie film.
It is. It really is. It's really appropriate that you are my co-host for this particular show.
Okay.
Because you're actually the reason.
I showed up.
You're the reason I'm here. First of all, like I wouldn't be sitting in Aladdin's without you.
Certainly not the VIP lounge.
And you're the first person to really introduce me to tonight's guest. So
That's
I think it's
right.
I think it's a little bit fitting.
We have an incredible guest tonight, and he just killed it on stage at our show. Please welcome Yuncle Boudreax.
Yes, Yuncle, how are you?
I ain't making no fuss. I can't make a fuss no more, Brian, because a group of people got together and said I couldn't. Some of them had badges and guns. One of them had a robe on, kept hitting his desk with a hammer. I ain't exactly sure what his problem was, but I just don't make a fuss anymore. It is a pleasure to be here. Good. This is my third trip back to Aladdin's.
Wow.
Probably about half a dozen shows now I've done.
He likes the hookahs.
Well, I tell people, here's how they laugh at a hookah lounge.
I know they are super stoned.
That's it. Nothing audible. Hardly ever anything audible. Just,
It is a hard. Do you find it to be like a harder crowd
It
to
is,
work with?
it
Because like
is.
with, and this is like an insight thing for people who aren't comics. The alcohol crowd is slightly easier to finesse. But when you're working this, it feels like an upscale baby shower half the time.
That's right.
Everybody's got money and they're beautiful and they're high as a kite. So you can't get them to laugh when they're supposed to laugh.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not like it's not poor people dropping money on hookahs and stuff.
No.
I wanted to have Uncle Boudreaux. So Uncle Boudreaux, just so my audience knows, Yuncle, excuse me, Yuncle. But he's not only really funny comedian, but he's also kind of a really interesting character. He the way he portrays, and of course you see him in the video. He's got the overalls, and he's got this whole southern sensibility to him, almost like a Creole sense about him. And he plays music. I really wanted to talk to you and get to know you a little bit better, Yuncle. If and that is your real name.
Well, it's not, and I'll get into the real name. What happened? I tell you, I sort of. Jerry Clower used to say he backed in the show business because he used to sell fertilizer, and he would sell fertilizer, but he'd never get invited back. So he started telling funny stories about growing up in Amite County, Mississippi, and he sold just as much fertilizer, and he got asked to come back. So he says he backed into show business, and that's kind of what I've done with the comedy. The Boudreaux character. When I was a kid, we had a record, 33 and the third record of Justin Wilson. He referred to himself as a half-bleed Cajun.
Okay.
He said he couldn't have stood a full dose of it, but he was a half-bleed Cajun, see. He said, I had so damn much fun as a half-bleed Cajun, I could not have stood a full dose of it, see. Well, we had that record, and I listened to that thing. Oh, it was called Hunt Them Duck with Justin Wilson. And he told these stories about these friends, what he had a licking pot hound and a Chattahoola dog, and he told all kind of, and he talked just like I'm talking to you right now, see. And I listened to that thing so damn many times I could talk just like he talked and told him stories just like he told him stories. My real name is Ryan Davis. Now there's already a comedian out of Atlanta named Ryan Davis. We're about the same height, same build, you know.
That's rough.
Other than back, he's black and I'm white. We dead ringers for each other. So I didn't want to, you know. Now this will come as a shock to the Boudreaux fans, but as a young man, I surrendered the call to ministry and was a pastor for 15 years. I was a pastor up until 2012.
See, I
knew
see
there
that.
had to be
yeah,
that.
you can feel that. Like when he's on stage, you can totally catch.
Like I get the presence.
Yes.
Yeah, no, totally. It's like I almost it's like I really feel like I just want to start making donations to this.
And
man,
I've already paid him several times to work for me, so it's about the same situation.
Yeah, well,
pretty much is.
Because I was a preacher. I wasn't Joel Osteen. I was more like TD Jokes. TD Jakes.
Now you're TD Jokes.
I now TD Jokes. I preached the paint off the wall. I mean, I hit the pulpit. I mean,
Gosh, I know a lot of Southern comics that is how they start. Even Bo, even Edward, like everybody. I know a lot of.
It really is. It's like the same skill set. Really,
really
you know,
is.
you're
People
speaking in front of
working.
audiences.
In front
You
of
know,
people.
Them engaged.
yeah, it's a very common
Separating them
entry.
from
It's a very
money.
common entry point
Right.
into comedy
That's a
is
great
doing.
one.
You know, like the great Sam Kinison. You know?
well, with Sam Kinison, he went full blown, blasphemous, and I just don't do that. And now tonight I dropped a couple F-bombs tonight. It was a different environment. Over at other place I didn't. I try to be PG-13, and I work with a lot of comics that say, well, I'm going to be dirty. I love doing dirty comedy. But that's fine. I'll cash the checks you can't cash. Because if you can do both, well, you can delve into both audiences. I do church-related humor that's negative, because I was a pastor that got deflocked, I guess you'd call it.
Defrocked.
Yeah, something like that. I got
Deflocks means you lost your sheep. You were defrocked.
Yeah.
Well,
isn't defrocked what happens when you strip a drag queen?
Why were you deflocked and or defrocked?
Well, I went through a divorce, which is taboo among Southern Baptists.
So that's what you were, Southern Baptist?
Well, I started out Independent Baptist, which is
no
even
such
stricter.
thing.
So just a Baptist.
No, it's a different. It's down here. It's like they're baptismal sects.
Yeah,
Really?
SECTS.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing.
My wife, I was married to for 20 years. She was not very supportive in the ministry, especially toward the end. We divorced, and I stayed in the ministry. The church supported me.
Did you
to
divorce
stay.
because she wasn't supportive?
Yeah, there was no.
You divorced your wife because she wasn't supportive of the church?
No.
Okay.
It was just.
She didn't support the comedy.
Well, no, I wasn't a comedian
She
then.
didn't pay the bills.
That's
what
right.
did she not support?
That's right.
No, it was. There was financial.
Disparities.
She believed in spending money.
discrepancies?
Spending money we didn't have on things we didn't need to impress people she didn't like.
Oh.
When we divorced, my credit score was in the 400s.
Oh my
I had
gosh.
worked my butt off, and today it is 704.
Nice.
And
That's
that,
how you know you're a real comic, because you start out with
That's-
a crappy credit score.
yeah.
There's no way he's a real comic though with a 705. That's not
He's about
happening.
to leave us
You
behind.
are. You're still a preacher apparently.
Well, she well, no, because I had a bad credit as a pastor. But I married a second woman. She was a high school sweetheart. We didn't see each other for 30 years after I divorced. She hunted me down. She was tatted up, pierced up. Nothing about her said preacher's wife. And so when she tracked me down after my divorce, she told me that every guy she'd been with had treated her just horribly. And in her mind, she should have always been with me. She should have fought for us to stay together, blah, blah, blah. It was a great story. Would have made a great movie. But come to find out later, she confessed that even though she wanted to be with me, she didn't want to be a preacher's wife. But she knew that if she could get me to marry her, she would...
Ruin your relationship with the Lord.
Exactly.
She would ruin your relationship with our Heavenly Father.
Right. Well, more so
That
just the
Jezebel.
church. Exactly. And she never told me that, but she told a friend that was her plan. And I won't go into details because it is kind of painful, but that she did things that brought negative attention to the church,
Oh, wow.
negative attention to me. I was as much of a victim as
That's
the church
commitment,
was.
really. I mean,
Yeah, but somehow
she was working hard.
Well, somehow she thought that she would jeopardize what had been my vocation for 15 years of my life and 20 years when you count college, and that I would just say, oh, well, I don't need to be a preacher. Let's just stay married and be in love forever. And that wasn't going to happen.
And you married her.
Yeah, we ended up...
You actually married... You're saying all this stuff right now.
2 months.
Well, he
We were married for 2
is a
months.
religious man, so he
Yeah.
has to get married if he wants to have some sex. That's
He's sitting in a hookah lounge at midnight with us.
Yeah. Well, I tell people that she didn't cost me my faith. She cost me my vocation in the ministry. And that's why, even though I'll do church-related humor, I don't do things that I would consider sacrilegious or blasphemous or anything like that. When I was pastoring, a preacher friend of mine, he said, if you came up here on a Saturday, we'll start the revival on a Sunday, come up here on a Saturday, and I'll have a youth meeting with my youth group. Could you get some overalls or something and pretend to be Boudreaux, and that was the first time the name had been added to this character.
Wow.
And we'll say you're Pastor Davis's cousin from Louisiana, and we'll just do a little comedy bit for the kids, and they're going to love it. We rode around that day. I bought some overalls. I bought some glasses that were the fake ones with the real thick thing, and a straw hat. I wrote down some things on a piece of paper. I said, here's what he was my straight man. You know, like the old comedy routine.
Sure, yeah.
I said, ask me about these things, and I'll make them funny. And a lot of it was a take off of Justin Wilson or Jerry Clower, that kind of stuff.
Yep,
so you did this, was it like a week? Or like how long did you have to completely develop this youth set? And
1 day.
1 day. So you did this all in 1 day.
Right.
Okay.
But that's like he's got all this stuff in his head already.
Yeah, it was stuff
he's just
already
basically,
there.
he's just putting
So
it
like,
together. You know?
I told him, I said,
Still.
so I came across, I knocked on the door, and he opened the door. Hey, Brother Boudreaux, how you doing? I said, hey, Brother Skeeter, how you are? And I did that Cajun talk like this the whole time. I said, I got a flat tire over there down the road there, but it's only flat on the bottom. It should not be hard to fix, you know. And I said, so this is your youth group, huh? And I said, where's that crazy cousin of mine? And they said, well, he had some stuff to take care of. He told us you would stop by. And I said, I'd rather hear him preach as to eat. And he said, really? I said, yeah, because I've heard him eat. It sounds horrible. And it just launched out. I told stories about a hunting dog, about my.
Were you still married to the Jezebel at
Yes.
this point? So I'm just trying to timeline this together. So you are on.
So I did that bit. We didn't know that there was a girl. This was 2012. Wasn't a lot of video phones.
Oh.
One of the kids was videoing this.
Put it on MySpace.
But they put it on YouTube. But I didn't know until about a couple weeks later. The pastor called me and said, "Hey, we're on YouTube."
Wow.
I said, "Who is?" He said, "Me and you and Boudreaux." I'm trying to give you the condensed version. I know we don't have all night.
15 minutes so far in the podcast, and this is the condensed version. Just messing with you.
So, a couple years.
He's not from here.
A couple years later, after doing that was fun. I called the South Carolina Gamecock sports station, 107.5 The Game. Out of the blue, they were talking about one of the SEC coaches had offered a squirrel. One of the recruits offered the coach squirrel.
Squirrel meat or a living squirrel?
No, meat to eat.
Wow.
So the host,
squirrel meat is delicious.
Oh, I love it.
Is it really?
It's not
Yeah,
bad.
I have-
and it's zero carbs.
I actually pride myself on eating strange foods. I have never had the opportunity to eat squirrel.
Have you eaten any other kind of rodent?
No, not rodent, but I ate seal meat in Canada recently.
Oh,
That was
whatever.
pretty- seal!
I ate walrus in Alaska.
You eat walrus? Where'd you get that?
I lived in the Arctic.
Did you pick your teeth with the tusk?
Yeah, well, of
That's
course I
what
did.
Well,
Just for the sake of this show.
That's
I did.
right. There we go.
yeah. Well, we
So some kid was offering squirrel meat.
Yeah, so the radio station was talking about,
That's what we do.
how good is squirrel meat? So I called on the phone, and they said, 107.5 The Game, what's your name? I said, my name is Boudreaux. You spell that Boudreaux, but you can pronounce it Budrow. And he goes, okay. He said, I don't even care what you want to talk about. Just make sure you when you get on the air, you tell them that you just told me. So I got on the air and I said the same thing. And so the guy that was hosting the show, he says, "You calling about the squirrel?" I said, "Yeah, man, squirrel good eating, you know." And he said, "Well, what's it taste like?" I said, "Well, it's sort of like a raccoon a little bit." And then he goes, "Well, what's that?"
There's a line.
It's an interesting point of comparison, really.
Yeah.
It's like
He says, well, what's that taste like? I said, well,
Burger King
like
chicken
a
nuggets.
I said, like a possum, but less greasy. And he said, well, what does that taste like? I said, rabbit? He goes, well, what's that taste like? I said, damn it, Heath, it tastes like chicken, all right? Just it tastes like chicken. And so that was my first time in public as Boudreaux.
wow.
And it's Boudreaux, not Boudreaux. A couple weeks passed, and I called the morning show, because that was the afternoon show. I called the morning show, and when I called to talk sports, I said, 107.5 Game, what's your first name? But this Boudreaux. They said, oh my gosh, they've been wanting you to call the morning show.
I can tell you because I am on the air, I am on the radio, I'm on the biggest country station around here, okay? They were freaking out because that is like a gold mine, is to have somebody calling in. That's like content you don't have to pay for.
Yeah,
It's
no, it's free
incredible.
stuff.
It's free stuff. I mean,
It's
you
just-
just
it's
made,
gold.
yes.
But let me tell you
I'm
where.
surprised they didn't make you the third mic.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you where it went south. because I don't call them anymore. I'm saying why. Now, I was calling 2 or 3 times a week. I called them one time about this. They were telling me we were playing LSU that week. I said, let me tell you something. I went down to LSU. I was still doing the Cajun accent, didn't see? I said, I was down to LSU, and there was some girls walking down yonder. There was one girl had purple shorts on, had yellow writing on the back, said LSU. Then there was another girl walking that had yellow shorts, purple writing. Hers said Tigers, but they spelled it Tigas down yonder. See? Cute little gals, but I wasn't interested in them because I like a big girl with some meat on her. They had a friend. Had a pair of purple shorts on, had yellow writing, said Louisiana State University, home of the Fighting Tigers on the back of them shorts. Well, they all laughed. I called about the time as a high school football player. It's a true story. Our field goal kicker got injured on a touchdown, so he wasn't able to kick the extra point. Well, we were up like 50-something to nothing, so the coach didn't want to go for 2 because that would be in poor taste. Well, I could kick a field goal, and I told the coach, let me just kick the field goal. If we miss it, so what? All right, go out there. So I kicked it off the tee at practice. I'm left-footed.
You don't hear that every day.
Yeah.
You don't hear I'm left-footed.
Yeah. No, I don't even think people know which foot they really have.
The twists and turns of the story.
Yeah, it's
I'm left-handed.
really interesting. We're like at 20 minutes now.
Well, I'm left-handed.
Interesting.
And so I'm lined up to kick. Well, the guy that's holding the ball, he's on the wrong damn side for me to kick the ball.
Oh, no.
So I'm like, nobody's thinking about it until right before the ball snapped. So when I run up to kick the ball, my right foot steps on his hand. I kick the ball.
No.
My knee comes up under his chin, hits him in the chin. He falls. The thing goes in. The kick was good. The guy on the loudspeaker gave credit to the actual kicker who was on the sideline nursing a bad knee. Well, I told that story on the air. A bunch of different stories on the air. Well, one day I went and did a talent show. Not a contest, it's a talent show at a local theater.
What year are we at it?
Yeah.
This is about 2014.
Because we started at
14. It was 12.
So 2 years.
So 2 years later, you're doing the character.
2014, I'm doing just a little variety show. And I was going to play a country song that I wrote about my dad. And when I'm doing the audition, somebody goes, Are you Boudreaux that calls 107.5 the game? I said, yeah. He said, well, we want you to do your song.
Yeah.
Wow.
But will you perform about 10 minutes of comedy at our show?
For free.
Yeah. And I said, well, I've never done it. It was my first time,
Nobody gets paid their first time.
So I did it. And when the show was over and the audience came on stage to see all the different performers, half the crowd circled around me, wanted to know where I was from, how long I've been doing comedy and stuff like that. I'm like, just today? Really?
Wow.
All right, so I started doing open mics after
I was going to say,
that.
it's hard when you start at the top.
But you had a lot of time to develop the character before you got on comedy stages.
Right.
So at least you weren't starting completely green.
Correct. Right. And that's when I would do the open mics in Columbia, I was doing a different 5 minutes every week. Now, it wasn't all original material. But you got to keep in mind, I wasn't trying to be a comedian. I was doing this for fun.
Doing a character.
Yeah, I was just having fun. And then as I began to realize this could make me some money, I've got to be original. So then I started coming up with original material. I did these open mics. I was doing a different 5 minutes every week. The other comedians were doing the same 5 minutes every week, not getting any funnier.
Yeah.
It was a Monday night open mic. The people that owned the venue went to the guy hosting the show and said, pick your best 5 or 6 comics. Let's do a Friday night show. We'll sell tickets and we'll pay these guys.
2014.
2014 was the talent show.
Yes.
But it was a couple years.
We're going to fact check this later.
There was a couple years before I got the nerve to go do open mics. So that was about 2018 or 19. I've been doing this long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You've been doing the character long, but as far as performing as a stand-up, say five years or so.
Yeah,
right?
I just met him last
So
year.
I started doing open mics in early 2020 or late 2019, and then
COVID hits.
right. So it was November of 2020 when we did that show where the guy said pick your best comic. So he comes to me, the host does. He don't know me. He just knows I'm doing 5 fresh minutes every week. And
which is incredible. Which is because I've run a lot of open mics, and it's so incredible that you had 5 different minutes every time
it really is.
Some of that,
nuts.
Some of that was still takeoffs of old Jerry Clower, Justin Wilson stuff now.
Yeah.
Because again, I wasn't looking at it as I'm going to be a comedian, but I was mixing in.
What do you think you were going to be though?
I was just doing it for fun. Just something I'm going to do. Let's just go have fun with it.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking, well, I could do this and make money as a comedian. But
it's
after
good that you thought that.
Right.
It's always good to go in with that expectation.
Yeah. Like this is how I'm going to make money.
Yeah, number one advice for comics watching: have gas money.
Yeah. So I started getting some original material, doing some songs and stuff, and I've always written poetry.
Yeah.
In first grade, I wrote Mary McGugan a poem that said, "Roses are red, bananas are yellow. If you be my girl, I'll be your fella." It did not help me get Mary McGugan, but the poems got
it's her
better.
loss.
Right, exactly. But anyway, so the guy comes to me, the host, and he says, "How much time can you do?" I said, "How much do you need me to do?" He said, "Can you do 30 minutes?" I said, "Yeah." Well, my average sermon was 40 minutes.
Yeah, see, that's
yeah. That's the training right there.
Training.
Yeah,
that's
so I said, I can do 30 minutes.
Yeah.
He says, okay. He says, well, I'm going to have you go last. Well, this was supposed to be a bunch of the best 5 or 6 open micers. There was only 3 open micers. The other 2, you know Tom Emmons?
I know the name.
Tom Emmons was on that show. He's been doing it for a dozen years. And there was another female comedian from the Charlotte area who's been doing it. They were given 12 to 15 minutes. I was given 30 minutes at the end.
Holy crap.
Wow.
And I've got video footage of that. Now it's some of the same stuff I still do.
Mm-hmm.
The garden tub story that I didn't do tonight, but I did over there.
Yes, yeah.
Well, in that video, it's okay. I think I've got it really tight now. But that particular show, it was just okay. But it was good enough. So my daughter videoed it, that show. It's on YouTube. And after the show, the host asked me, said, "How long have you been doing 30-minute, or he said feature-length sets?"
Wow.
I said, "What time is it?" I said, "Are we counting from when I started or when I finished?"
Wow.
He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's the first time I ever got paid to do comedy." He said, "Well, why didn't you tell me that?" I said, how'd I do?
Didn't ask.
He said, "You crushed it." I said, "Would you have let me go last and give me 30 minutes if I had told you I'd never been paid for comedy?" He says, "No." I said, "That's why I didn't tell you."
Wow.
I said, "You didn't ask me." And I said, "Who on the show should have followed me tonight?" He goes, "Nobody." Okay.
There you go.
There you go. That
Have
just
you
started
lost?
getting me booked.
You shot up. You shot up.
Basically. In shooting up, have you lost any contacts? Has there been any difficult relationships from that?
Yeah.
Within your comedy community? Because it can be rough. It can be
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of brutal.
And there is some jealousy. And see, all right, so one day I was talking to a friend of mine at a open mic. Mm-hmm. Another comedian comes up and he hears me talking like I'm talking now, which is without the accent, just
normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he goes, kind of smug, he goes, "So you're really a character, not really a comedian."
Well, duh.
And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, here's what he asked me, Minda. He said, here's what I thought he was asking. Who is your inspiration? Mm-hmm. But apparently his exact wording was, where do you get your material?
Oh.
So I named off Justin Wilson, Jerry Clower.
Yeah, of course.
Louis Grizzard.
No.
So he goes straight to a local Columbia comedian and says, "Oh, he's a joke stealer."
Yeah.
All right.
So for us, like,
so you got
it.
it. Yeah. That
exactly.
You know,
And
you don't want to steal jokes, no.
Right.
And the thing is, like, I know everything that I've seen you do has been original, right?
Yes,
but
yes.
when I first saw you, just the name Boudreaux. I lived in Louisiana for a little while. Anybody who spent time in like Cajun country knows that they tell Boudreaux jokes. It's a very common, thing. Is Boudreaux out in the bayou. I can't do the accent. Yeah. So,
Boudreaux and Thibodeau.
Yeah, Boudreaux and Thibodeau. That's right.
See, I'm learning.
Yeah, and so, and I was like, that it reminded me of that. I know you didn't steal the jokes, but I thought that you were from Louisiana because of the character.
Yeah, so he goes straight to a local Columbia comedian who's had a measure of success, told that comedian, well, he steals jokes. All right,
yeah.
so
it's like the death knell.
It really is.
So that goes around, and I said, okay, with the 30 minutes that I did at that one show I was telling you about, I said, take those 30 minutes and find me the evidence. Go find me the comedian that I stole it from.
Yeah.
There's a term for it. It's called parallel thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the technical term. It happens to all of us that write.
And that's why I always put my songs into my bit, because that's something nobody can say, well, he stole that. Not
Right.
the hell,
Very
I
smart.
wrote that.
That is one of the things too that strikes me as so unique about your performance too, is the music, the combination of the music and the jokes.
Well,
I really
I've been
appreciate that.
described as sort of like a Rodney Carrington type,
Yes.
Which is fine. I mean, for every comedian that just stands up there and talks, are they the same?
That's
So-
a
so-
flattering thing.
Yeah. The joke stealing thing. I had another guy bait me. he said, he was telling me about these two comedians that one stole the other one's joke. And he said, what do you think about it? I said, I don't care. Well, he took that I don't care about people stealing jokes. That's not what I said. What I said was, if I hear, let's just use an example. If I hear Daniel Tosh tell a joke, and then you come tell me, well, he stole that from Dane Cook. Why don't you look this up and see this? Because I don't freaking care.
That's a lot of work.
It was funny. I don't care who got it first. They both may have got it from the same feature that featured for him in some local joint somewhere. I don't know where they got it. I'm not going to listen to a comedian and then go Google his material and try to catch him in something. And that's what some of them have done, tried to do to me. And it just pisses me off.
Yeah, be careful with that.
What I really hate about our art form is this idea that you can't just you can't copy from others. You can't do any other material.
That?
Well, I hate. Let me see where I'm getting.
Started that rough.
I know. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, no. I don't want people stealing my jokes. But then again, who would? Who would want them? But in music, you can do a cover song. You can't do a cover joke. You can't do a cover joke. Other countries, other markets, that's how they do it. Actually, I interviewed Yakov Smirnoff a few years ago about Russia, the comedy in Russia, and they had all their jokes had to be approved by the government, and because it was so hard to get them approved, that they would just do the popular jokes. They would get on stage and do whatever jokes that were popular at the time. We don't operate like that, and we got a whole culture that'll get on you on YouTube.
Oh, absolutely.
Twitter, you can't be a comic on Twitter.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like you.
Well, I'm not even on Twitter, but I'm just kidding. I ain't on Twitter. I ain't on Pornhub either, not no more anyway. I was on Pornhub, but the wife made me take the damn video down. Mainly because she was my neighbor's wife, all right? And the people at the... Don't judge me, damn it. You don't know the whole story, okay? I am an entertainer first. I'm not a comedy writer, but I write my material. But I'm an entertainer first. And my obligation is not to impress the three comedians sitting at the back Googling my jokes. My obligation is to entertain the people that paid a cover charge to come hear me perform. Now, I'm not going to steal a joke to do that. But my priority is to entertain those people.
Minda, I get the feeling that this is going to be just the Yuncle Boudreaux podcast.
It's fine. I love it.
I'm
it's
okay
fantastic.
with it too. I'll just let him run.
But I do have a question.
Yeah.
So because I know that you're coming from like a religious background and everything. Like, did you have a hard time going from that to this environment? And I'm talking about the club scene, the bar scene, and all the folks and things like that. Because it seems like it would be kind of in a direct contradiction of what you would preach against, but here we're in the bar and it's the alcohol. Because I mean, it's hard to do a show without alcohol.
This ain't a Christian environment, is what I think is what you're getting at.
Do you have an internal conflict with any of that?
A little bit, yeah. I seldom drink. I never did. My brother was an alcoholic by the time I was 15, so I just never drank, even before I started pastoring. And I didn't start drinking. I'm 53, and I didn't start drinking socially till after I left the ministry. So I would have been 40.
I've never seen you. Oh no, I did see you drink one drink before.
Yeah, every now and then I'll have amaretto sour. So that's like they fixed me that bourbon
at the last show.
And I couldn't drink it. I choked it down. But I just never have been a drinker. I never smoked in my life. But I love to sing karaoke, so I go to bars pretty regular singing karaoke. It's a different environment. It was a little bit of a conflict. The first time I dropped an F-bomb at a comedy show, I felt so dirty.
Yeah, I was wondering. Because I was raised religious as well, and so to do that switch is tough. Like you can't just turn it off and on.
Here's how I look at it. I look at it as a Christian that is in a movie playing a rapist.
Yeah.
He's playing a part.
Are we talking about Kirk Cameron? Who are we talking about? I've never heard of a...
No. But just anybody who's playing a role. I think I know what you're getting at.
As a Christian. I'm not saying he's playing a rapist. I'm just saying...
like a straight actor playing a gay role or so. So you're playing a part.
Yeah,
and even when you're not on stage, you're in the environment, you're still playing that role.
Right. And when I walk into a room,
still had to have been weird. It still had to have been very weird.
It was.
It's a transition. Plus, his last wife was all tatted up and pierced and stuff. So she had to introduce him to something.
How did that end? You never told us how she ended. Or are we not to know?
Yeah, I don't know.
We're surviving.
Well, let me tell you, people ask me, well, how'd you get involved with her? Because she looked rough.
He's like, she showed up.
She was very pretty.
Yeah.
She was very pretty. And I said, when your wife wakes up in the morning and says, do you want breakfast or a blowjob? You eat a lot of Pop-Tarts. And I'm just saying. And so sex was good. But
Oh man, I was like, maybe she was feeding you Pop-Tarts for breakfast. I
Where
don't
were
know.
you on
Yeah,
that?
I was way off.
This
I was
is
like,
what you were on this weight loss train, so you went right to the Pop-Tarts. Like,
Yeah.
that's where you were interested.
and my mind has been messed up, man.
She was insanely jealous.
Oh, yeah, they are.
And she just had a blow up one day, threatened me, threatened my kids. I ended up in a hospital.
You can't threaten the kids.
Yeah, it was just. Yeah, I don't want to get into it. It is a little painful.
That's all right. We don't need to open that wound.
It became an embarrassment to the church, and that little local church of 25, 30 people just decided they had to cut ties with me, even though I was the victim of this whole thing too.
Yeah. Well,
so I was the baby that was thrown out with the bathwater.
Preacher's wife, We're running out of time. A couple of things I want to touch on before we go. First of all, I love the character. I like the origin story.
Very well done.
And it makes sense because the first time I saw him, I was like, this guy is a seasoned pro. You know what I mean?
I think I told you.
Yeah.
I think I was like, he's
Yeah.
only 2 years in.
Yeah, I had no idea, man. I was like, there's no way that this guy is fresh.
I've told this story because after that show, you
Here,
came.
this show, our show?
No, the one that we did together, yeah.
I tell the story about how Minda Rella booked me as a feature and then bumped me to the opening spot for this Brian King character.
Were you the headliner?
I think I was featuring.
He was featuring. And then you told me, you said, well, you'll still do the same amount of time. And I told my girlfriend at the time, I said, she's going to bump me back.
No.
Yeah, because you first you said I could do 30 minutes. First you said 15, and I said, well, I normally do 30. You're like, well, I've never seen you, but if you can do 30, I'll let you.
That's true. That does sound like me. Like, I have trust issues.
Yeah.
So
well, it's also some guy from South Carolina
guy.
wearing overalls,
Yeah, so you bumped me down to 20.
Very urban club.
And do you remember what you said to me after the show?
I don't, unfortunately. But
you came up to me and you said something to the effect of, you know how a basketball team can wipe out another team by like 50. Mm-hmm. You still got to say good game, even if it wasn't.
That sounds like you.
Yeah.
And you said, I've told a lot of comics that was a good set because it was the right thing to say. And you looked at me and you said, I wasn't prepared to follow you tonight. And that meant a lot to me. Not that I thought you didn't hold up your end, but just that you weren't expecting
that
this guy.
That kind of sounds like something I would say.
Yeah,
you're nice.
Yeah, because also
what
too.
I wanted to say back was,
but also too,
you weren't supposed to follow me.
But I wasn't really. Yeah, it's true. You don't expect to come in and have somebody just tear it up as well as you did. Neither one of us, I think.
Well,
I hadn't seen him before. Yeah.
And it's not that I couldn't follow you. It's just that I was
I'm not
just really.
suggesting you didn't do well. I'm just saying that you.
Right.
It's getting hot in here, boys. It's getting warm.
No, I took it as a compliment.
And it was a compliment, and that's what that's how I meant it. That's how I meant it. And I'm so glad that you remembered it because I forgot that I said it. But I'm glad it meant something to you, and I'm really glad that I shared that with you because that's how I am. Though I will honestly share my opinion to comedians. And if you suck, I'm not going to tell you because I'm a nice guy. But if you're really good and I think you're really talented, then yeah, I'm definitely gonna let you know. I want to say something else. So you talk about money, you talk about working it, and the one thing I really admire about you is you always show up to these gigs. I've only seen you at a couple, but you always show up with a giant suitcase full of merch, and you're working it. You're getting your brand out there. He's got hats and shirts.
Yeah, he came out here during the daylight hours and set up his stuff.
Nice.
And then went and did another show and came back.
And see, that is a professional attitude towards something that so many people just don't take very seriously.
A lot of comedians are they'll get stickers or they'll get different little really really cheap things they can pretty much give away for $1. And I just said, well, you know what? In for a pound, in for an ounce, or however that saying goes.
I don't know how you buy jokes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I don't know. But I just bit the
In
bullet.
for a penny out
Something like that. So I just bit the bullet. So I'm going to go and buy T-shirts.
That's
fantastic. Now I have 2 different designs of T-shirts. I got 2 different design hats. And my shot glasses, I bought 144 shot glasses in April. I'm down to my last half a dozen shot glasses.
This is laugh your liver loose, right?
This is a preacher who sells shot glasses.
Yeah.
That's what I was at. That's why I asked that question.
An irony.
And what I'll say is,
I want to see him sell like Yuncle Boudreaux sex toys.
I do not want to see that.
You do not want to see that.
No.
But
maybe I got a kink. I don't know. We have to. Yeah, we do. We do have to wrap it up, and I think we could keep talking forever. He's a pretty interesting guy, not right?
Yeah.
Well, my next shot glasses
are
still going to
they
say.
really are.
Still going to say laugh your liver loose, but it's going to have 2023 on it.
Yeah.
And then that way, if I can sell another 144 next year, then each year I'll just buy 144 glasses and put a different year on it, different catchphrase. Because people collect those things. Now, those are the cheap. The only bad thing about having a $5 item on your table is they're not going to buy a $20 T-shirt or a $15 hat when they can buy a $5 shot glass.
Right.
So
I wouldn't invest in the shirts at all. That's just me as a business person. I would just go like lowball it into you.
I really feel like you should have overalls. Yuncle Boudreaux overalls.
Just like a sticker of it.
Just something.
I've probably sold 200 shirts in the last year. I mean, I've sold a lot of them.
But you sold.
I didn't do good tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
but
you did fine tonight.
But
I saw you sell some shot glasses.
The guy that does my shirts told me when I picked up the last ones, he said, "I'll run you a line of credit so you can buy." Because I'm buying 25 at a time.
Well, look, that just does bring up a point that you are doing this the traditional pounding the pavement, hitting up the clubs without going viral, without using the TikTok, and you're still selling merch, and you're still
not even on Twitter.
He doesn't need to be on Twitter.
Donald Trump's on Twitter now. Yeah.
He
got back on today, which is like me putting a timestamp on this podcast. By the way, if anyone wants to do research on that, hey, we've got to wrap it up, Uncle. But let me tell you, Yuncle.
Let me quickly tell you.
No. He's my uncle. He's Yuncle.
The way it started, it was just going to be Boudreaux. So I'd introduce myself as I'm your Uncle Boudreaux. You know me, I'm your Uncle Boudreaux. I was saying I was your Uncle Boudreaux, so it kind of stuck. So when I did the domain name, I thought, if I go with Uncle Boudreaux, there's probably some Uncle Boudreaux restaurant, Uncle Boudreaux bar, but if I put a Y in it, then I could probably get that domain name. So that's why I went with Yuncle Boudreaux.
That's smart.
Yeah, that is smart.
So I was able to.
And you had the whole joke in there.
Right.
Like you wrapped it up nicely.
I'm Yuncle Boudreaux on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube.
And that actually brings me to my closing question: how do people find you? And that's exactly how.
He's a pro. He's a pro.
Really well.
I got a comedy page. It's like your daddy's brother with a Y in front of it. And I tell people that, and they'll write down YUNKLE. Like, why in the hell? It's just Uncle. It's just Uncle, but with a Y.
You got some illiterate fans.
They are buying T-shirts, so they can do whatever they want.
As long as they're spending money and coming to shows, that's all that matters. Yuncle, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Minda, you are a fabulous co-host.
Thank you.
You're like a professional host.
I might be.
You really are. I think you are.
It's 1 in, too.
Yeah, it's late.
Really?
It's
we're
late.
killing it.
Yeah. And folks, of course, none of this would be possible without my listeners, without my viewers. Please, thank you so much for listening, for viewing. Continue to do so. And this has been another episode of On the Road with Dr. Brian.
Book him.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. Blues, women, and blues. I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere.